Concerns are growing. It may become more difficult for voters to decipher what information is real and what's fake in the 2024 presidential election. Some big tech companies are rolling back policies put in place to curb misinformation around the 2020 election. Advancements in artificial intelligence could also threaten election information. For more on this, let's bring in David Becker. He's a CBS News election law contributor and the executive director and founder of the nonpartisan nonprofit Center for Election Innovation and Research. David, it's good to see you.
Good to see you too, Vlad.
So there's a lot of talk. Every day there's something in the news cycle about how AI is going to destroy civilization as we know it. Walk us through how nefarious actors could use these advancements in generative AI to, in this case, mislead voters.
Well, we're nearly 1,000 days since the 2020 election, and still tens of millions of Americans, and probably the majority of the Republican primary electorate, still believe lies that the 2020 election and perhaps some of the 2022 elections were stolen. And that's without AI. That's without any kind of artificial manufacturing of evidence that would seem to suggest that the election was stolen. And that's with a lot of the platforms trying to monitor that and protect against that. And we still find ourselves there 1,000 days after. If we have AI manufacturing evidence, taking videos and making them deep fakes, making it appear as if voter fraud had occurred or something else, it could be open season on the truth with regard to elections. And that's just a very dangerous place for a democracy. We might find first that some people might believe these lies that elections were stolen, but perhaps just as dangerous, it could be that no one believes any truth about elections, that there's never any actual winner. And that's obviously, when you have a democracy, you can't really have a situation where no one is perceived to be the winner.
But here's the thing about it. What we're seeing more and more are these tech companies and social media platforms walking back policies that they put in place. A lot of them around the January 6th, storming of the Capitol, because they saw the violence that a lot of this misinformation encouraged. So now they're walking back some of these policies and not necessarily replacing them with other policies that might help to control misinformation. Why is that happening?
I can't really answer why that's happening. I think any platform has the responsibility of making sure that they're handling information responsibly. And this isn't a legitimate debate between two competing ideas. That's all right. Obviously, that's what media should be presenting. But we're having a debate between the truth and absolute lies, manufactured claims about election fraud. You can't have a legitimate debate about whether 1 + 1 = 2 or 1 + 1 = green. That's what we're really seeing in this field of democracy. And it really is incumbent upon the platforms to make sure that they're presenting factual evidence responsibly, because as we saw on January 6th, the threat of violence is real. And we still are living in a society where our civil servants, election officials, are being threatened every single day. We're actually seeing this ramp up right now in an odd numbered year, 18 months away from a presidential election.
Mm-hmm.
So do you think Congress is taking this seriously? And what could they be doing that they're not doing?
Well, it's not just incumbent upon Congress. It could also be the state legislatures. It could also be the platforms themselves. But I think we should be asking questions. When you provide a forum for legitimate public discussion and debate, which is a very good thing, and we should give credit to the platforms for doing that, it also comes with a big responsibility. And as we see companies like Twitter and YouTube moving away from their regulation responsibilities with regard to truthful information, it may be time for Congress, state legislators, others to take a really serious look at that, because the consequences of this is real. I mean, it is likely that the losing candidate in subsequent elections will post lies about the election after they've lost. And if that happens, what kind of violence could be incited? The consequences to people, our citizens, our neighbors, is real.
There's a university, I'm just looking right now, University College in London, researchers did a really interesting experiment where they gave people the option to use a trust or don't trust or mistrust button, which allowed for the posting
On social media?
On social media, and their conclusion was that people use those buttons responsibly. That if something came, now I kind of chuckled a little bit myself because I was like, yeah, until it's out in the real world, right?
As soon as Prometheus got fired,
I know. But I bring it up to say there may be options that are not about limiting people's ability to express themselves, but at least warning people that they should perhaps question some of what they see.
Yeah, that's a great point, Anne-Marie. There's Twitter still has this, even though they've really rolled back some of their regulatory responsibilities. They still have labeling of some information. There's a question as to whether that's being done on a really consistent basis, but that kind of thing can be useful. But we're also seeing people retreat into their media silos more and more, and only listening to media that agrees with their worldview, whether it's truthful or not. And so that's going to persist, even if the platforms self-regulate to some degree or are forced to regulate. We're going to have to be very vigilant over this next 18 months. It's a really perilous period of time because it is an absolute guaranteed fact that losing candidates, not just for the presidency, but all the way down, some of them are going to claim that the election was stolen. We saw it in 2020. We saw it in 2022.
David Becker, it's always great talking to you. Thank you.
Thank you.